And that's where we begin. The Arab League has passed a resolution calling on the rest of the world to recognize the Syrian opposition as the legitimate representative of the Syrian people now. Earlier, as leaders took their seats in the enormous meeting room, there was a dramatic and historic moment. Look at this. Moaz al-Khatib sat down in the seat reserved for Syria to a round of applause. That moment is historic because al-Khatib is the leader of Syria's opposition. The Syrian government hasn't attended the summit since it was expelled from the League in 2011 for using violence against civilians. Shashank Joshi has some insight into that historic moment. He's a research fellow of the Royal United Services Institute. And Shashank joins us now by Skype, live from London. How would you characterize that step if the ultimate goal of the Syrian opposition is to get rid of Bashar al-Assad?
I think they recognize it's a first small step, and that actually this summit is bittersweet. It's sweet because it's a moment of recognition, of legitimacy, of assuming a formal position in the Arab League. But it's also bitter, really, because Moaz al-Khatib is resigning and the opposition continues to be extremely divided. So there are major divisions between factions led by Moaz al-Khatib, with more support inside Syria, and there are factions led by people like the new interim Prime Minister, Hassan Hitto, who have stronger links to the Qataris, to the Muslim Brotherhood. So I think they recognize there's a long way to go yet.
Right. To actually be able to attend this annual summit, what can be done, do you think?
They can attend the annual summit, they can receive arms, they can even receive a certain degree of diplomatic status. They can perhaps take over the Syrian government embassies across the Arab world in countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar. To some extent, that has already happened. But really, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that there remains a big gap between those in Doha, those in Paris sitting outside the country, and those doing the fighting inside the country. And many of those doing the fighting, the Free Syrian Army and other rebel groups, they just don't trust the exiles and the political leadership yet.
Within the Arab League, though, I mean, there's that draft declaration that's come out saying Arab League member states have the right to provide military support to those fighting al-Assad. So we're talking about some pretty rich people here, right? Is that enough?
We are talking about some rich people, but I wouldn't read too much into that statement because, of course, the Arab countries have been giving arms to the rebels anyway. They've been giving arms to them since last year. Notably, Saudi Arabia and Qatar have been especially generous. And now, over the past 4 or 5 months, the United States has also started helping organize that effort. It's helped with vetting rebels, providing intelligence, and providing logistical assistance. So really, this is a formality recognizing a process of arms provision that began last November or so.
And I want to address that divide you were talking about with the Syrian opposition. How badly is it affecting things within Syria?
Well, it's affecting the prospect of a unified government that's ready to take charge the day after Assad falls. That's the big problem. Right now, the divisions in the opposition don't make a difference because the opposition has no sway on the ground in Syria, in places like Aleppo, Damascus in the south. It doesn't make a difference. The time when it makes a difference is the day after Assad falls. Will there be one government in Syria ready to take over in Damascus from a discredited regime, or will there be hundreds of militias on the ground unable to be tamed by the outside opposition because they have multiple sources of leadership?
Right, but the reality of the day Assad falls, it just sounds like there's all these symbolic moments, but no progress.
I think that's a bit too pessimistic. There has been some military progress. We are seeing more and more attacks in Damascus. We are seeing the south of the country, which was previously fairly quiet, come under escalating attack as well. But on the whole, I think if you only look at what happened in Doha today, if you only look at the Syrian National Coalition and listen to what they have to say, you would come away with a completely distorted, over-optimistic picture of what's going on in Syria.
All right. Forgive my pessimism. Thanks for speaking with us, Shashank.